You guys remember these? Now, I know what you're thinking. Get your mind out of the gutter. It's not that, but it's also not bullet bill either.
No, these are not bullet bills.
This is a Chunky Boy. It's an ergonomic silicone crochet hook handle that is intended to reduce hand pain while crocheting. Beth Russell, the creator of the Chunky Boy, sells these for $15 on her website in scheduled drops that often sell out in minutes, much to the chagrin of the crochet community at large. The Chunky Boy hook handle was a phenomenon that took my little corner of the internet by storm, due in large part to its consistent virality on TikTok.
I've just found my new favorite crochet thing, and that is Chunky Boy handles.
So they come in like a poly mailer, which is totally fine because they're silicone, nothing's gonna happen to them.
It's kind of really sad when I received it because it's not the color that I thought it was. The hole's off-centered. It's for crochet, I promise.
Do not worry, as if the crochet gods had heard me, I got another package in the mail. No, these are not bullet bills. I got 2 more Chunky Boys for different size hooks.
And it's supposed to be one size fits all, so I'm gonna insert this hook in there. Oh my gosh. I know my wrists are gonna thank me later.
So the Chunky Boy 2.0 is a lot more flimsy.
These really make you feel like anyone who's anyone has tried these handles. And no, I'm not saying that just because I used one once.
Try out my Chunky Boy hook.
Oh, cool, yeah.
Yeah, just do a little, gotta get used to the grip, but
Oh yeah, it's nice.
yeah, it's nice, right?
A lot of the product's success can be attributed to Beth's videos performing really well on TikTok, as well as large crochet influencers like Jaida of Mrs. Moon in Heaven and Helena of Squish & Co. posting videos about it and encouraging people to try them. To me, their popularity exemplifies the importance of word-of-mouth influencer marketing, especially in the crafting space. Especially when purchasing products online or from small businesses, it can be hard to know what you're going to get. So once this product got the green light from a few accounts that people trusted, everybody wanted to try them. But Beth Russell was the sole employee of Chunky Boy for years. When she started posting on TikTok, her social media presence was a combination of crochet talk, book talk, and smut talk. But after a video of her ergonomic handles went viral, she became known as the Chunky Boy Craft Handles Lady and has since leaned into that and turned what used to be a little side quest into a full-time job. What started out as a solution for a problem that she had has now turned into a booming crochet hook handle business. But as often happens when small businesses blow up, this hasn't all been smooth sailing. Today's deep dive will include a timeline of events following the Chunky Boy handle's rise to success, a discussion of reoccurring complaints that customers have had, and a retrospective look at some of the business decisions that Beth has made. This video will also include clips from an exclusive interview that I had with Beth, answering some of the questions that I had after diving deeper into the Chunky Boy lore. But before we get into all of that, let's hear a quick word from the sponsor of today's video, Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN, or virtual private network, that keeps your online activity safe by encrypting your personal activity and allowing you to change your virtual location. What does that all mean? Basically, anyone who's trying to spy on you won't be able to see what you're up to. You can maintain your online anonymity without anyone knowing how many times you've watched that one tutorial of the Italian bind-off. Trust me, you know the one I'm talking about. Hey, you told them. Oh yeah, sorry. Or like, no one can see your bank info and stuff. A VPN also lets you virtually travel to different locations so you can access features that are geo-restricted without ever having to leave the comfort of your home. And Surfshark has more than 3,200 servers in over 100 countries, so you always have a lot of variety to choose from. Conversely, this can be really helpful if you are traveling and you want to change your location back to your home country so you can keep watching all of your favorite shows on Netflix. To try Surfshark out today, make sure to use my code INTHEMOMENT for 4 extra months at surfshark.deals/inthemoment or click the link in the description. That's in the moment for 4 extra months. Thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and let's get back into it. Quick little announcement before we go any further. If you saw my community post from a few weeks ago, then you'll know that I have been exploring some name changes, possibly changing the name of this channel. So if you don't want to lose track of my videos, make sure you subscribe right now. I'll let you know when the name is changed, obviously, as well, like in a video, but if you don't want to miss anything, then make sure you subscribe. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit more about the Chunky Boy. The Chunky Boy is first and foremost an accessibility tool and a disability aid.
So let's talk about why my Chunky Boy crochet handles are way more ergonomic than the ergonomic hooks that are popular on the market. There's 2 main differences. The first is the width. I call them Chunky Boys for a reason. 'Cause they chunky. I did a ton of research when developing these. They're about twice the width of normal ergonomic crochet hooks. I read medical journals, and this is the exact width recommended by occupational therapists and physical therapists for maintaining hand health with hand tools.
We've talked about it a little bit, but how did this whole chunky boy craze really begin? Let's go all the way back to the beginning of the story. During the pandemic, Beth Russell, a former paralegal, fell ill with something that apparently was not COVID, but something that was significant enough that she had to take a lot of time off of work. During this time, she got really into beaded crochet, which uses tiny crochet hooks, and she started experiencing a lot of hand pain. She started looking for solutions, couldn't really find what she wanted, and the rest is history, or I guess chunky boy lore.
I started the Chunky Boys. They actually were born through, I was really sick in the middle of COVID. Not COVID, thank God, but I had other health issues going on. I had to take FMLA. I was at home and all I could do was crochet. And so I started picking up like more and more complicated techniques just to kind of like feel like I was challenging myself because I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything. I was totally hopped up on meds. And so I picked up beaded crochet, which I actually still do. I have some bracelets on right now. And I had never had issues with hand cramping like that before. It's the most stereotypical entrepreneurship story of like, I went looking for a solution. There wasn't one out there. So I went to like Michael's and I got like one thing of polymer clay and just wrapped it around the crochet hook I'd been using and had this moment of like, I am, at the time I was 29, aside from I had no real health issues, aside from like I was sick, but that was completely unrelated to my hands or my joints. And I was like, if I'm having this problem and I'm not finding a good solution, like there's got to be people with arthritis, people with wrist joints. I mean, when I created it, I really wasn't expecting it to take off with a broader audience like it has. I truly created it as an accessibility device, that it was created for the disabled community.
So Beth designed the ergonomic hook handle that she herself wanted. To figure out the size to make this tool, she told me that she did a lot of research looking at occupational therapy and physical therapy journals.
The study that said that the optimal width for hand tools for ergonomics and like avoiding hand fatigue is 1.25 inches. And I've actually had over the years a bunch of occupational therapists reach out to me that they recommend these to their customers. They own them. Honestly, I think I'm most excited to be able to have the inventory to expand into true disability devices, like start marketing to occupational therapists.
I asked her to send me the journal that she actually ended up using to reference, but she never got back to me. So I looked around a little bit. I couldn't find this specific fact in sort of a cursory search. I don't know exactly the journals to look into. So if there's any occupational therapists out there who want to weigh in on this or let me know what study this might be referencing, then please do. Since the Chunky Boys were originally considered to be a mobility device, Beth refers to them as falling under the category of curb cutting.
And so curb cutting is a term for when something's created for a disabled community that benefits the larger community. And that's kind of what happened with the Chunky Boy.
She created them for people who had specific mobility constraints, but has since seen that a lot of people in the larger community have benefited from using them. Beth also talked a lot about accessibility being very important to her. From creating and pricing the Chunky Boy to the Chunky Boy yarn store, which she opened, she was always thinking about accessibility. The yarn store only stayed open for 3 months. We'll talk more about that later.
Accessibility has always been like the core of every business. Like that's just kind of my passion, or that I've found, and like what I really care about in the crafting space, just because I struggle with my mental health a lot. I'm very open about that I have anxiety and depression, and that one of, the things that helps me stay sane is creative pursuits, crafting. And I know for people who are more physically disabled, for me, that's even more important. That, going back to when I was sick and I invented these, like it was eye-opening for me that when I couldn't do anything else, crocheting was what kept me okay. And that like sympathy for the importance of this and the frustration when like a physical limitation is put on something that's so important for your mental health. Oh, I really want to do this, but my hands are hurting. Like I want to eradicate that conversation for people. The like physical versus mental, like just follow your bliss and I'll take care of your hands.
An interesting little tidbit of Chunky Boy lore. The first video of Beth's that went really viral of these ergonomic hooks was something that she says was inspired by her dumbass muse.
So I was drinking wine, working one night on FaceTime with a girlfriend, and I was like, oh my God, these need to be.
And so they became. This is the second video in a row where I've had to censor me saying the word Never thought it would happen, but here we are. Penis. Sorry. Couldn't help it.
So those were really went viral, and that was so fun. We had it during Pride Month, so I did all of the pride flags and pride colors, and like it was such a fun community at that time.
Tangential to this is that Beth said that she learned a lot about how to work with silicone from the DIY adult toy subreddit.
There's a board on Reddit called DIY adult toys or something like that. Every time I would hit a roadblock, like that's where I would go for advice. That was the community that taught me what I needed to know.
Like I mentioned before, Beth was working alone for years, and because her TikToks got so much traction, right off the bat, they were struggling to keep up with orders.
Unfortunately, very quickly, that was like the first step of demand completely outstripping our capabilities.
And I think this is a very salient aspect of the story to highlight here. The Chunky Boys just blew up so fast that they didn't really have time to scale like they needed to.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, really just me and a part-time employee intermittently.
Okay, so I was filming last night and there was a tornado watch in Boston, and I don't think that really means anything really, but the weather got all like weird and windy and scary, so I stopped filming and now I'm back. It's the next day. So now we're going to talk about the reviews and how people's opinion of the Chunky Boy has changed over time. Ideally, I would have put together some comprehensive qualitative research study where I had topic word tags and, you know, could chart the satisfaction of customers based on a huge variety of reviews over time, but I just don't really know how to do that, and I don't have access to that many reviews to make a robust enough data set. Instead, I'm just going to tell you kind of a story of a few case studies and some greater trends that I've seen from reviews on TikTok, Reddit, and about 20 people from my audience sent in email reviews of their experience with the Chunky Boy. I hope that's robust enough for you. I think we'll still get a good picture tracking sort of how people felt about this as time went on. Initially, people seemed to be pretty happy with their Chunky Boys. They seemed to be helping a lot of people crochet and do other crafts like drawing. People would put the Chunky Boy on like an Apple Pencil, and people were willing to cut Beth a lot of slack because she had just launched the business. A lot of inconsistencies or shipping delays were sort of just wrapped up in, oh well, she just started, we understand that. Earlier I mentioned that some of the Chunky Boy success was due to sort of guerrilla influencer marketing where, you know, these people with platforms purchased the hook handles, really liked them, made videos about them, and drove sales. Let's talk to our Chunky Boy customer correspondent, Jaida, to hear a little bit about her experience with the Chunky Boy.
You know about this? You know about this? Well, you should know about this because you've been watching a video for
13.2
minutes. I'm going to tell you about my experience with the Chunky Boy hook. Listen, I was a big fan. I was a big fan of these guys. That's not to say that I'm not a fan of these anymore. I just don't use them simply because I just got into using the Clover and More hooks and I can't go back from that. What really got me was a video about her tension from before using a Chunky Boy and after using a Chunky Boy, and the difference was gorgeous and clear, and my tension really wasn't good, actually up until recently, and I was getting hand pain. I was getting wrist pain actually, shooting down here. So I got it and I tried it out and it made a difference. It really did, and I really loved it. And then I went to the orthopedic, and I was like, God, my wrist is really hurting. And I just don't understand why, because I don't even use my wrist that much when I crochet. And then the doctor was like, well, the problem is you're using your joints too much. And I was like, oh, well, that explains it, but how was I supposed to know that? I got the Chunky Boy. I got more Chunky Boys. I ordered a bunch. It was the only thing I could use for the time period that I was in pain. So ergonomically, great, really did work. I used it for about a month, and then the pain started to go away, and plus after that, then I was able to figure out how to properly move my hands and fingers and wrists without causing any pain, even without a chunky boy, because I was just getting used to the movements. Also, I will say, Beth, very, 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 very nice woman. I have been in contact with her with mutuals. She's very nice to me. Some cons of it were that, you know, once this hook was in, it's not coming out. I know that's been a complaint, but I really came to peace with that, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll just get more, you know? And I know that's not always the thing that a lot of people want to do, is like get more of a thing, but like something about me is like I don't mind buying things, which is not great. But in this case, I mean, it's a small business, it's one person. I was like, all right, $15. It's not like I'm breaking the bank. They would sell it really fast, which I know was another complaint, but like, I mean, good for her. I mean, I would want to sell it fast if I was selling it, right? I did try taking out some. I have a video that did go around a little bit because it was so shocking about me trying to use a 3.5 for the first time, and I was trying to get it into my chunky boy, and I did bend the tip. Didn't realize that would happen because it was such a thin hook. Should have thought about that. That did suck. I'm starting a project with a 3.5 millimeter hook, so all thoughts and prayers will be appreciated.
What are you talking about?
I did notice some inconsistencies with the holes. Like, for example, this one, it's not, you know, it's really not centered. Didn't really affect the way I crocheted, I don't think. You can never know them boys anymore. Funny little tidbit about these guys is when I first started ordering them, I remember that my partner had went outside, picked up the package, felt it in there, and was like, what the hell is this? And I was like, oh, it's my chunky boy, which I don't think it helped explain what it was. I maybe made it even weirder. So yeah, overall, I mean, my review of this as a loyal customer for a good while was that it did what it had to do. It worked for me, helped with my joint pain, and honestly, I think this is really great for people who have dexterity issues, kids. I think that it's a great product for that, you know? Despite everything else, despite, you know, the bigger business things and all that stuff, but like talking about the chunky boy itself and my experience with this and Beth, I mean, like, little to no complaints. It did what it had to do. Sure, I think I wish that the holes were centered and that it was easier to get in and out, but I mean, that was an easy fix for me. But I guess I'm easy. I like these guys. I like Beth. Sending it back over to you, made in the moment. And then catch it, okay? Like, hold on. And then be like this and catch one.
Thanks for that, Jaida. There were lots of other positive reviews on social media.
Has a chunky boy handle on it. The ergonomic handle helps me crochet longer without pain.
This is the normal hook. This is the hook I was using. This is so much better.
These are my previous two chunky boys. Sometimes it would make the crochet hook really hard to get in and out of them, but I still like these. But I love this. I love how smooth it feels. I love how bendy it is.
I've been using it for about a day now, and it's literally my favorite thing ever.
It's a silicone handle, maintaining your hands, and I'm trying to crochet for a long time.
Found a new use for the chunky boy. It's a spinner.
I'm gonna take it for a spin.
In addition to that, some of the people who sent in emails to me were quite happy with their chunky boys. Over email, Kat said, the physical defects do not limit any of the functionality, and I was able to get used to the feel fairly quickly. Also, considering Beth at the time handmade each chunky boy essentially on her own in her garage, it's expected there to be air pockets, slight misalignments, etc. in them. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. However, I think people are holding the chunky boy to interesting standards. The chunky boy isn't meant to be a beautiful handcrafted piece of art. It's an ergonomic tool. To judge it solely on its aesthetic qualities without testing its actual function doesn't sit right with me. Someone named Lexi said that she's been following the chunky boy since the polymer clay days, and the chunky boy she has now has helped her a lot with relieving pain. She also said, I will say, it survived being soaked in fire water, like the runoff from the firefighters putting out a fire above my unit, and it retained no smell and didn't change texture, which I thought was pretty impressive. So, you know, chunky boys are fireproof, I guess. Maybe chunky boys are kind of like cockroaches in that sense, where like in hundreds of thousands of years, once the human race has died off and some new race springs up, someone will be looking around and just like find a pile of chunky boys and be like, wonder what these were. I don't know if that was a good joke. If you're watching this back, Jaida, and that doesn't land, then just cut it out. I don't know. I don't know.
Dude, I get it. Yeah, like, you know, like with the nuclear and then the cockroaches is still alive. Oh, dude, good one.
However, even at the beginning, people were having some problems with the functionality of the handle, and they started posting about it and sharing about it. So I'm gonna call this category of reviews, Help My Hook is Stuck. And basically this is just exactly what it sounds like. A bunch of people put the hook into the Chunky Boy and then realized it was completely stuck and there was no way to get it out. Somehow the silicone created this like really strong seal and the hook wouldn't budge at all, which is kind of what it was intended to do because you don't want the hook falling out while you're crocheting. But even using the tips that Beth suggested, like putting an oil into the hole of it and trying to like lube the hook to get it out. Maybe I shouldn't be talking with my hands at this part. Or like putting cornstarch or something, baby powder? I don't know. There were like a couple different suggestions on the website of what to do, and people said that they tried that and that didn't work at all. And the hook was just completely stuck. So I saw this across social media in complaints, and almost all of the emails that I received had some sort of complaint about their hook being stuck in the handle. Tess said, "You also cannot get hooks in and out easily either. I was constantly having to use cornstarch when I had to change hooks, and it was so messy. It was also too difficult for even my able-bodied husband to help me change the hooks." April F said that she felt her hands didn't cramp as much when she used it, but it was pretty much impossible to take the hook out. Also, the claim that you can switch out hooks easily is a lie. I put Susan Bates' metal hooks in both of mine, and even when using pliers, they will not budge. I've seen her mention using an oil to take them out, but that doesn't seem to work well. If I put oil in before the hook is inserted, the hook will slip around constantly and I will have oily hands. If I put no oil in before inserting the hook, the seal is too tight for the oil to help. I have simply just accepted that my hooks will remain in the Chunky Boy forever. Issa said, "It took forever to get to me in the mail and sucked once I got it. It was nearly impossible to take on and off my hooks and honestly caused me more pain than the hooks without the Chunky Boy." Ty told me that they started crocheting last year and that once they started, their For You page was just like all crochet content. They originally heard about the hooks through Helena of Squish & Co. She has joint pain and like swears by using them, so they decided to check them out. They got one of the hooks in like April or May during one of the drops. And here is some of what they said. "Initially, when I got to the site, I felt rushed to buy the product without really looking at the prices because I knew they sold out quickly." So Ty said that they ended up spending more on hooks than they initially planned because they just didn't have time to actually look through the site like they wanted to because they knew there was this timer at the end, basically, where they would sell out if they didn't get things quickly enough. While they waited about 3 weeks for their order to show up, they started noticing that there were a lot of negative comments on Beth's Instagram and TikTok of people who hadn't received their orders or were having problems with the product once it arrived. Ty said they ordered 2 different sizes, a large and a medium, and here's what they had to say about that. "The large was impossible to use comfortably as the holes were so crooked and loose. Not only would my hooks slide around in the grip and literally make fart sounds as I held them with the grip, but my hand and wrist hurt far worse because I had to accommodate my grip just to keep it on the hook. As for the second one, the holes were aligned and it fit the hook perfectly. So much so that I still haven't been able to get the hook out. The hook stuck is a 5mm Susan Bates aluminum hook, which is sharp at both points and at the hook. I have injured myself and damaged clothes and furniture trying to get this hook out." So yeah, the hook coming out of the handle is not only just like unfortunate and like, oh bummer, my hook is in there. The hook being stuck is resulting in people damaging their property and injuring themselves. Also, if we think about the fact that this is intended to be a disability aid or like a mobility aid, a lot of these reviews are from people who said they are able-bodied, don't necessarily have problems with hand strength, it's just like they wanted to try out the Chunky Boy. If you are using this because you need it and like can't hold a crochet hook without one, you probably also don't have the hand strength to be like yanking a sharp metal object out of a silicone handle. And if you're sitting there thinking like, oh, well, I know that like I shouldn't pull on it in a weird way, or, you know, I know that I need to be careful because it's a sharp hook, and obviously I ripped one of my shirts trying to get a Chunky Boy out. I was hanging out with Jaida. She was trying to get the hook out of her Chunky Boy and it wouldn't come out. And so it wasn't a great idea, but I I was holding the handle in one hand and I wrapped the hook in like my shirt and then pulled thinking it would just come out. Like I had not spent any time touching this. I didn't know how deeply wedged in there it was. And I ripped a hole in one of my favorite shirts. This right here is a casualty of the Chunky Boy. Look at that. Thankfully it ripped like right on the stripe. And honestly, I could probably do something to like mend it. I just haven't yet because it's pretty unnoticeable when I wear it. But even you could be a victim of getting your hook stuck in a chunky boy. Before we talk about any more reviews, I want to take a brief intermission to talk about one of Beth's failed side quests, the Chunky Boy Yarn Store. So okay, what do we know so far? The Chunky Boys are in high demand. They're always selling out. The business seems like it's growing faster than one person can handle. What's Beth doing? In summer of 2023, Beth moved from Austin, Texas to upstate New York with her husband to be closer to his family. She shared a few videos about the moving process on her TikTok, saying that the original plan was to leave the business in Austin and move her family to New York and then figure out the rest later. In addition to moving, she was also trying to keep the business running alone, apply for a pattern, look for manufacturers, and open a yarn store. On May 13th, 2023, she announced on TikTok that she had found a retail space in Johnstown, New York, and was planning on going ahead with the lease. But after their move, her plans had fallen through with that retail space and she had to find a new one.
Big news! I'm in my new shop!
She finally made it into her shop and posted a handful of videos on TikTok. A lot of them were promising additional content that never came. She said that she was going to make a whole series on, renovating a space, and she ended up making a handful of videos. Something really cool that she made was this like massive granny square wrap that went around sort of the like bar area or the register. I think it turned out really nice. It seems like it was a crazy amount of work and looks quite lovely, although I will say on camera, it looks like kind of the same as just like stickers. One of my mutuals, Moa, has a similar thing like this in her yarn shop, and it's literally just like sticker decals so that she didn't have to do the whole work of crocheting. Not important, not relevant to the story, just a little tangent that I wanted to say. The Chunky Boy Yarn Store opened in Polar Plaza in what used to be a Dunkin' Donuts and then also used to be a bar and grill in the town of Amsterdam. Insignificant but interesting fact is that the store actually opened exactly 3 years after she posted her first TikTok on October 7th, 2020. This is what the storefront looked like. A yarn store that looked like this in Amsterdam. What could go wrong? Oh yeah, Amsterdam. I don't mean Amsterdam like the city in the Netherlands. I mean Amsterdam, the town in upstate New York. The town with a population of only 18,000. What could possibly go wrong with this? Yarn stores are notoriously difficult to keep open because retail space in highly trafficked areas is exorbitantly expensive. You also need a lot of space to showcase the product, which again is expensive. And then conversely, it's probably not going to be super lucrative unless you have a lot of traffic coming into the store to actually be purchasing the yarn and making kind of big orders. And like, out of 18,000 residents in Amsterdam, how many people are going to the yarn store? How many people are going often enough to keep business going? Scrolling through the Facebook page of the Chunky Boy Yarn Store, you can see that as it's nearing the end of its life cycle, a lot of events are getting canceled, things are being closed, the store is closed, things are delayed, all of this stuff. And eventually on May 14th, Beth announced that the store would be closing via a Facebook post. She said, "Unfortunately, I've had to make the decision to close Chunky Boy Yarn Shop. Don't worry, we're not closing our doors immediately. For those of you who have fallen in love with the Chunky Boy craft handle, that portion of my business isn't going away and will actually be growing this year. Opening this shop has been such a grand adventure, and I wish with all my heart we could have stayed a part of this community. However, unfortunately, we just have not received the community support we had hoped to keep the shop afloat." When I asked her in our conversation what she thought went wrong with the store, this is what she said.
I think part of it was moving and opening a business so quickly in a community I didn't know. I think in a lot of ways, I built this business for Austin. I've spent almost my entire adult life in Austin, and there's such a strong small business like level of support in that city. Part of it was not realizing how financially destitute the area I moved to is. Unfortunately, I think where I really miscalculated the market was that I thought there was going to be a pretty large community for that. I can afford to not have big box store prices, but I can't afford the fancy yarn shop. And I really thought there was going to be more of a middle ground. And unfortunately, I think, there was a larger have and have not divide. The old families that are very rich that have been here for forever would go to one of the very high-end yarn stores in a nearby town. And the locals who were in, that lower tax bracket couldn't afford even, that not having a coupon to have $1 off of that ball of yarn. And so I just think I didn't have that middle ground that I thought I would.
And like I've already kind of mentioned, the business failed for several reasons. Like Beth talked about, the demand just kind of wasn't there in Amsterdam, New York. She said that she thought it would be perfect to open a yarn store there because there wasn't really something that was exactly filling that niche there. And the problem with that is that, like, maybe there wasn't something there because there wasn't really a demand for it. It also seems like she kind of got swept up in the idea of what it would be like to own a yarn store. For a fiber artist, owning a yarn store is like a pretty common dream, but it's not something that everybody can do. Being a successful business owner in an online space is different from an in-person retail store. It just really seems like she didn't have the retail or business understanding to open a yarn store and keep it going. And again, it just seems like she didn't really have the capital that she needed or the planning in place to keep the yarn store afloat through at least the first 6 months without having to rely solely on the customer base to just like pay rent. And with some reflection and time away from it, even she agrees that if she had waited a little bit longer, then she probably wouldn't have opened the store. It seemed like she was at this like very critical point for the Chunky Boy business, and instead of really investing the time and energy and money that she needed to into that process, she created an offshoot and made another business, and it just turned out to be more of a money suck and a time suck and an energy suck than she had accounted for.
I think if I had waited 6 months longer, I probably wouldn't have opened the store at all. But it was kind of this like really fun idea, and I was so passionate about the type of space I wanted to create, and kind of had this hope of like, if I build it, they will come. And that was not the case. You know, the yarn store was becoming like this time and energy and money suck. And the Chunky Boys were becoming like more and more of an afterburner as like the yarn store failed. Like I could spend years trying to bail out the boat on this, or I could go back to the business that was making me really happy and is more successful.
So in response to all of the complaints about the hook, mostly the help my hook is stuck category of reviews, Beth created a second squishier silicone formula and called it the Chunky Boy 2.0. She announced the differences between the old handle and the new handle on TikTok in May, around the same time as all of this store stuff was happening.
We all know and love our Chunky Boys, but let's be real, they're a bitch to get on and off of your hook. And I get that. I do. I have been working for almost a year on how to fix this. Sure that all of the reasons why this works so well can still be true and fix that problem. And we did. This is the Chunky Boy 2.0. I know it looks the exact same, but let me show you the difference. The softness. So you can see how squishy this one is. It still provides the same ergonomic benefits. It still clings to your hook just as well, but let me show you the difference. When it's softer, you can squish it down like that and it pops right off of your hook.
So yeah, she had a lot going on. She was looking for a yarn store. She had just come up with a new formula for the Chunky Boy, and she had just moved across the country. Having moved across the country myself, I couldn't imagine doing absolutely anything else other than just doing that at the same time. So you can see this was kind of a recipe for disaster right from the get-go. What did people think about the Chunky 2.0? Did they like it now that their hooks could come in and out? Well, Emily R. said, "I hate the Chunky Boy 2.0 and almost never use it. It's not just the color, but they're sticky and attract any dust, hair, or anything around you. The stickiness is just a sensory nightmare when I'm working." So yeah, following the release of the Chunky Boy 2.0, the reviews actually got worse, many citing a drop in quality from the Chunky Boy 1.0 to the 2.0 version. Customers across the internet and in the email reviews that got sent to me cited problems such as massive chunks of silicone missing from the sides, untrimmed sides, or the bottom being completely untrimmed and like raw, and the texture of the silicone being a lot worse than the texture that it was before, attracting literally anything that was small and vaguely hair-like in the person's house. In an email, Megan C. told me that she greatly preferred the 1.0 version. The 1.0 model looks better and more well-made than the 2.0. While it's not a huge deal to me since it doesn't affect its functionality, the 2.0 did have bits of untrimmed silicone and cuts from where the silicone was presumably trimmed on the sides. This seemed to be a turnoff to people in the comments, and I remember seeing people speculating that she was deleting or filtering out comments mentioning it on TikTok. If you do search Chunky Boy Crochet Hook on TikTok, one of the first videos that comes up is a review from Sarah Off the Hook.
My Chunky Boy Crochet Hook handle came in, and I'm a little disappointed.
She says that she ordered her hook on July 4th, 2023, so this is the 2.0 version, and that it arrived about 2 weeks later on the 31st. Her first complaint was just the aesthetic presentation of the actual package. She said that on TikTok she had seen some people receive their handles in like a cute little mesh bag, and hers was literally just raw in the poly mailer.
The first thing that was kind of like disappointing was I've seen a lot of people open theirs and there's like a cute little mesh bag, which isn't like the biggest deal because I'm sure she had a lot of orders. She probably just ran out, but it was kind of just tossed in there, so I felt kind of like, oh, okay.
I think that this speaks to a really interesting thing about like small businesses and social media, where now there's this expectation that any small business you order from is going to have all of these extra things in your order, like cute little bags and stickers and tattoos and a handwritten note and all of this stuff. And obviously that stuff's nice, right? I love when I order from a small business and I get like a bunch of fun little stuff. Like when I ordered this necklace from Fruit Fly Forever, which has a real bee in it, by the way, if you were wondering. Ethically sourced from this LA-based, really, really small jewelry business. I got a handwritten note, a little bag, some stickers, all of that stuff. It was amazing. But if they hadn't sent that stuff to me, I still would have liked the necklace. So there's this kind of weird expectation now that all small businesses have to have all these additional accoutrements when like you actually just bought a product and they don't owe you that. But at the same time, like presentation of what something looks like is important and is going to add to customer satisfaction, especially if you were excited about how this was presented and packaged on TikTok, and then when you get the product, it's different than what you thought. And that was just like the beginning of her problems. Some of her other complaints, there were huge chunks missing from the silicone, the hole wasn't centered, and the edges were raw.
Chunks missing out of it. There's like a big divot right there. The bottom, like the center, it's not centered, the hole. So, you know, she puts these in a mold, so there has to be some kind of like edge where they can open, I think. Just feel like it's a little bit raw. Point of this thing is like very raw, like you can see some stuff. So yeah, I'm just kind of a little disappointed and sorry for waving this thing in front of my face, but I mean, it is what it is. But it is just kind of a bummer because it is like, you know, a cute thing to add to your hobby.
She does say here that she actually hadn't tried it out yet, which is like, I don't know. I feel like you should try out a product like that before you make a whole review about it on TikTok, but that's just my opinion. So she wasn't sure if these aesthetic issues would affect the functionality of the hook at all, but she said that it was very disappointing to receive her hook in that state. TikTok user Aries in Flavortown commented on this video saying, "The fact that they don't see anything wrong with sending products out like that is wild to me." And Sarah responded, "Unfortunately, I think their priorities are in building their storefront right now, so quality control has fallen by the wayside." This is kind of what I was referring to earlier. It just seems like Beth was very much spread too thin at this point. Another user, T, commented, "Why do they look so shiny and sparkly in the pictures, but they are dull and lifeless in real life?" Crying emoji. I was bummed about that more than the trimming. And Sarah responds saying, "Yeah, this one's giving tampon." And this was another complaint that came up fairly regularly in reviews online and in my emails, that the colors looked amazing in the photo shoots and like on the product listings, but then when people got them, they were either very dull and not the color that it looked like in the picture, or literally just the wrong color and not what people ordered. Frida A ordered a chunky boy in what she thought was pink and white, but when it ended up coming, it was purple and black. This is what she thought she ordered, and this is what she got. When she reached out to Beth saying that she was dissatisfied and that's not the color that she ordered, Beth responded saying, "Sometimes the lighting we use can make the colors look a little different." And while I agree that it's really hard to get accurate like photos of colors, this is a pretty big difference. And it wasn't just Frida. Emily R also had a similar experience where her order took 2 months to ship, and when they arrived, they were the wrong color. Here's what she ordered, and here is what she got. On Reddit in r/crochet, Mothman66613 posted a review of their experience with the Chunky Boys. They ordered 3 hooks in November of 2023, so about 6 months after the launch of the 2.0 formula. Mothman wrote, "When the items arrived, I was very disappointed with the quality of the product. There is pieces missing on the side, and the holes on the bottom are uneven that it's uncomfortable to even work with. When they reached out via email, they were told that they could only receive a refund if they paid for shipping and handling to send the hook handles back to Beth, and if they were hoping for better quality products, then they should just wait until the hooks went into manufacturing." Mothman's post ends, "I shouldn't have to wait for you to use a manufacturer to receive quality items, especially at the price I am paying. I shouldn't have to pay for shipping and handling for something that was caused by her laziness and not a care to properly inspect items before shipping to the customer. I have been back and forth with her, and now I'm not receiving any emails back. I have read many posts on Reddit regarding her business and have on Facebook as well. I know some people have told me once they shared their situation on Reddit, she gladly approved the refund. So let's hope so. This is absolutely no way to run a business. More recently, in March of 2024, another user posted another review in r/crochet. They said that they ordered a Chunky Boy when they first came out and they were pretty satisfied with it, except for the size range being pretty limited for not being able to fit a ton of hooks into it. They reordered the 2.0 and found that the quality had significantly declined compared to their older handle, and keep in mind this is a handle that is also 2 years old. They said, "I waited 2 years to buy another one, hoping the design got better and I could use it with larger hook sizes. Well, last week I ordered one. Let me just say, the quality has absolutely tanked. It looks like something someone is making in their bathroom. The hole for the hook isn't centered. The silicone is peeling in multiple places. It makes the hook crooked when crocheting, so I have to adjust how I work the yarn or it gets caught constantly. I'm incredibly disappointed." Ty, the person who I mentioned earlier who had problems removing the hook, said that they reordered from the spooky Halloween drop of the 2.0s and had similar problems. They said, "Again, the grips did nothing to aid in my pain and discomfort and usually added to it. While the softer silicone seems to help people get the hooks in and out, the aesthetic quality of the handles seemed to drop quite significantly with this new formula." The website also has this disclaimer that says, "Because each handle is handmade in-house, cosmetic differences between handles does occur, but it does not impact the ergonomics or benefits of the Chunky Boy." Is that actually what it says? But one of the issues that does affect the functionality of the Chunky Boy is the hole being off-centered, which Sarah Off the Hook mentioned in her review on TikTok. Ty again ended their email with a list of cons of the Chunky Boy handle as compared to other ergonomic hooks. The cons they listed are varying levels of imperfections, inconsistent products, long waits between restocks and for shipping, gross sticky residue left on hooks, risk of injury and property damage, and silicone grips mean fibers, hair, and everything coating the grips. They also included some photos like this one where we can really see how misaligned the holes are. The two on the right are the 1.0 version, and the green ones are 2.0s with the softer silicone. Only one of them has a perfectly aligned hole out of these 4, and the other 3 are like pretty off. Like, look at the one on the left. Others, like 2 different people named Emily, sent me in photos of their hooks with the holes misaligned. One said, "But neither Chunky Boy resembled the product photo on the website in color, and one came with the hole for the crochet hook completely off center. It's almost coming out of the side of the handle. It is still usable, but it's annoying to do so. This is something that should have been caught with some kind of quality control." Another Emily said, comparing the Chunky Boy 2.0 to the 1.0, "Since I liked it so much, I figured I would just get another one. When it arrived, I wasn't impressed. It was a lot different, it was really squishy, and mine also came a bit defective. Instead of the hole going right through the center of the whole thing, it was in the center at the rounded end, but at the bottom, it was off to the side almost the entire way." At this point, Beth has been in business for long enough that these things should have been caught and corrected for. There's also this like strange thing that a few people mentioned in the reviews where people were like, "Well, I paid $15 for this handle, it's going to cost me this much to ship it back. It's not really worth the refund, so I'm just going to hold on to it and it's fine." So the amount of people that were dissatisfied versus the amount of people that actually like reached out to Beth and asked for a refund is pretty disproportionate, I'm guessing. This is just speculation, but I'm guessing a lot of people just kind of ate the cost and were like, "Well, it's kind of bad, but I guess I'll just like hold on to it and not use it," which is not great. Another notable aesthetic dip that I want to point out happened in February of 2024, and this post is actually the thing that made me put the Chunky Boys on my list of stories to watch because I wanted to see what would happen after this. In February, Chunky Boy had a product restock with a slightly new option, painted Chunky Boys, which is a nice idea. Like, you know, what else are you gonna do but like add something to the surface of this? Of silicone, which is pretty hard to paint. Blue_moon posted screenshots of this in r/crochet. They said, "I had been waiting for a restock for months since I keep missing every single one despite being signed up on their email list. Today they had one. WTF even is this? $30 for a silicone grip that looks like it was painted on by a child? I mean, I guess clearly some people like it since most of their stuff sold out within minutes, but this is absolutely ridiculous. I'm really trying to give them the benefit of the doubt since it's a small business, but this is just absolutely ridiculous." I didn't really hear much about this since then. I don't know if any of you bought one of these painted handles. It seems like they didn't offer them again after this, and rightly so. It makes sense that at this point in the business, they're trying to provide some sort of like upscaled item where it's like, oh, the regular Chunky Boy is $15, but if you want a hand-painted one, it's $30. But the painting has to be good, you know? And like, I did some art classes in middle school. I know how to paint a little bit. I know how to draw a little bit, and this is just not a product. You can't really sell this. You can't, it's not good enough quality to sell. Like, look at this. But moving on. So obviously a mobility device is not intended to be one size fits all. The Chunky Boy is not going to work for everybody, even if it is like a good width for most people. But for some, it caused more pain than it helped. One of my followers, Bailey, sent an email with the subject line Chunky Boy Nightmare, and this is what she said. To make a long and unfortunate story short, the Chunky Boy handle literally injured my wrist so bad that I had to go to urgent care and get a steroid shot to ease the pain, which was $260 with insurance, thanks America, and had to take a couple months off from crocheting. I thought I had broke my wrist from how severe the pain was. I had been using it for about 6 weeks and had noticed more wrist pain, but overall I didn't think anything of it since I was also crocheting more in general. I then realized that the way I crocheted with the Chunky Boy in my hands caused much more wrist strain than me not using it. Since I stopped using it, my pain has decreased immensely. I'm sure it does wonders for others, but for me, it has caused permanent injury, sadly. I wish it could have done the opposite for me. Another customer, April Bookmiller, had a similar experience. If you are squeamish about injuries, I recommend skipping this part. I won't be offended. Skip to this timestamp. All you need to know is someone injured themselves pretty badly while trying to put a hook in the handle. If you don't want to hear any more about that, then skip to here. For the not faint of heart, let's continue. On March 19th, 2023, April posted on r/crochet with a post called, "I just spent 3 hours in the ER to have a hook removed from my palm." You still can skip ahead, it's not too late. You don't have to listen to this if you don't want to. I'm not forcing you to listen to this, but it's part of the story, so I'm gonna say it. The post says, "I was trying to put a Chunky Boy handle on and the hook end became impaled in my hand. For those wondering, it was a 3.5 aluminum hook. I have to follow up with the orthopedic surgeon when the swelling in my hand goes down because he's worried about nerve and tendon damage. Be careful out there, people." And from what it looks like, she was pushing the hook into the Chunky Boy using her hand as leverage, like this. And yeah, if you're curious, here's what the hook looked like in her hand, and here's what it looked like when she took it out. Hey, I told you it was a little gruesome. One thing that stands out to me in this picture is that between the hand and the hook is a thin bit of like folded up paper, which on the one hand, I'm like, how did you not think that like that was gonna go through? How did you not realize that putting a thin piece of paper between your hand and a thin, sharp stick of metal would not do anything? But then, you know, on the other hand, I tore my shirt. When I get frustrated trying to like pull something or push something, you do things that are not super logical. And I'm not saying I could see this exactly happening to me. Like, I hope that I would stop myself before it got to that point, and I hope that I would use logic, but I can see how this happened. I don't necessarily think, though, that this is Beth's fault for this design. I do think it is a little bit irresponsible to not have any sort of disclaimer or little like printed piece of instructions on how to make it. There is like a TikTok tutorial of how to put the handle on the hook, and it's not the way that I would have thought to do it. I would have put the hook in through the top of the hole, but I guess you're supposed to put it in through the bottom and slide the handle onto the top of it. But to know to do that, you have to go to the Chunky Boy Care page of the website and then click on a link to a TikTok to find that. And I don't know about you, but when I order a new product, that's like not usually my thought process that I'm going into. So personally, I think it would be better if like you do want to have a video tutorial, put a QR code, put it on like a little printed piece of paper. It's not going to cost that much to add that into every package. And just a little thing that's like, hey, be careful, crochet hooks are sharp. I know you guys are smart and you're not gonna get your hand impaled on a hook, but just so you don't, here's how to make sure that you're safe. And give some examples of things to use and things to not use to put in between your hand and the hook as leverage. But anyway, a few weeks later, April posted an update. It bled remarkably little and healed really well. The third pic shows how bad it swelled up initially. I have some nerve damage that causes numbness in the webbing between my index and middle fingers, and it's still pretty sore internally, but I have full range of motion of my fingers, and yes, I kept the hook. So thankfully, it seems like she didn't like lose the loss of her hand forever or puncture anything crazy, because like that could have easily happened. There's a lot of like really important little muscles and tendons in your hand. About a month after this update post from Reddit, she sent an email to Beth saying, "I impaled my hand with a crochet hook trying to put a Chunky Boy on. you should provide specific instructions for putting the handle on when people order. Just a heads up. She allegedly never heard back from Beth about the injury, and as far as I can see, there have been no updates made to the product page or anything like that with any sort of warnings about being careful putting the hook on and off. Again, it's just that TikTok linked in the Chunky Boy Care page. And when asked about this, Beth said she did not receive any communication from April. So we spend all this time now talking about the reviews. Sorry that was a lot, but like there's a lot to get through and a lot of specific things to talk about. We know that Beth listened to customer complaints to develop the Chunky Boy 2.0 formula, but what about after that? How does she respond to all of this criticism?
You know, we're both aware that there's some negative reviews out there.
Publicly, she would respond to comments, but a lot of people commenting would say that they had been waiting for weeks or months to hear back from her about an order, and usually commenting was like a second or third attempt at reaching out to her. And hey, customer service is a lot of work, especially when you're getting as much feedback as Beth seemed to be getting. Like, I know I'm not always good about my emails. It's very, very hard to check in about that. But when the complaints are of this like level of severity, you have to be on it a little bit more. And this is just another place where it seemed like she didn't have the capacity to be taking on as much work as she did. While Beth does seem to take the recurring complaints seriously, enough so that she changed the product for it, in an email with the Daily Gazette, Beth mentions cyberbullying and reiterates that every Chunky Boy is made in-house, and so there are irregularities that are to be expected from this. She said, "There's a lot more cyberbullying in being a small business owner these days than people necessarily realize. As far as irregularities, I am aware of that feedback. Up until now, each and every Chunky Boy has been handmade by us. There was not a manufacturing process. Each and every one is hand-poured and hand-trimmed. Obviously, we're not machines. We're not able to reach a level of perfection that manufacturing can." And she does have a point. At the core of most of these negative reviews are the fact that one person cannot handle this business with this tricky material to work with. It just needed to be in manufacturing. To the casual viewer, it might appear that Beth has been in manufacturing for some time. She's been talking about it for a long time and actually found a manufacturer about a year ago. Early last May, she made an announcement that they had found a manufacturer and that they were hoping to release manufactured Chunky Boys by the end of summer 2023. That process ended up taking a lot longer than expected because the silicone was such a difficult material to handle with how thick it was, and so they're only just doing their first pre-order of manufactured Chunky Boys right now this month.
Hi, my crochet loves. I have something like so freaking exciting to show you guys. Yep, that's right. That's a manufactured Chunky Boy. It's so beautiful.
Like I've been alluding to a lot, silicone is a tricky material to work with. Personally, I've never tried it, but that's what Beth says, and it seems like that's the consensus all over the internet as well. Beth's customers were willing to give her the benefit of the doubt for the first few drops, knowing that she was getting used to working with this material, but unfortunately, as time went on, the quality went down, as did people's willingness to accept a subpar product.
I have worked for years at perfecting the molding process for my Chunky Boys. It's been a labor of love, a work in progress. I think we've hit a point where me as a business is big enough that there doesn't seem to be an awareness that these are handmade or a tolerance for the small imperfections that come along with that. That is okay.
To Beth's credit, in all of this, it at least seems like she was pretty aware of the negative complaints and did seem like she genuinely wanted to fix them and make a better product.
I have built this business by listening to you guys, and I'm hearing you. I really am. The feedback that you're sending me, it is not falling on deaf ears. I have been working on getting the manufacturing process set up for, oh my God, probably almost a year now. And we're getting very close, but it is a very slow and expensive process.
But she said that she thought the real crux of the issue was that they just needed this support a long time ago.
I'm not perfect. I've been doing this all on my own for years now. And honestly, I think so much of that has come from the fact that we needed to be in manufacturing 2 years ago. Like, honestly, the needs of the business, my options were either like completely shut it down and people don't remember me when I finally have manufacturing done, or just do my damnedest with the tools available for me in the meantime.
The business grew to a point that Beth could no longer handle it. Pun intended. And now listen, I understand acutely the fear of taking too long to perfect something and then coming back and having no one remember you. Thank you, YouTube algorithm, for making me feel like I have to post once a week when that's just physically impossible for me. But at a certain point, you just have to look at what you're producing and assess if things can keep going at the rate that they're going at. The critiques people have of the Chunky Boys are very valid. It's not just people being nitpicky and trying to tear down a small business. And the Chunky Boy certainly has remained a part of the conversation because of it. But not all in a positive way, and all press is good press only goes so far. Because yeah, at a certain point, I'm just one person is not gonna cut it for customers. A lot of small businesses these days are just one person, and there has to be a level of quality control. In my opinion, the Chunky Boys hit this critical juncture where there were kind of two ways to move forward. You can either forge ahead as one person and attempt to fulfill all the orders, but at the cost of quality and ability to handle customer service requests. Or you can take the hit financially that it would inevitably be to go into manufacturing, hire the experts that you actually need to support your business, and take the time to perfect your product. And the problem with option one is that it's really only a temporary solution until something drastic happens and it reaches that boiling point where like you have to make a decision. You can't keep choosing option one forever. It's a temporary solution until you either choose option two or you get in so over your head that you have to fake your death, like Danielle from Mystical Creations Yarn. And yeah, that's the other thing. Beth is not unique in this struggle. I would say like almost all successful small businesses reach this point eventually. But by waiting as long as she did to make the leap to manufacturing, a lot of which was out of her control, Beth has lost a lot of customer trust and loyalty. She says that going into manufacturing has been a 2-year process. She didn't want to stop producing things for 2 years.
I started the process of getting a manufacturer 2 years ago.
And let's talk a little bit about why the manufacturing process actually took so long. The manufactured Chunky Boys will be made using a process called silicone injection molding. I'm certainly no silicone expert, but I found this helpful little video from Proto Labs on YouTube that explains it quite well with a nice little model. Basically, the silicone is pumped into a little mold with a contraption that looks something like this, and then it sits in the mold until it has cured, which based on my understanding is like a similar process as waiting for Jell-O to get jiggly in the fridge. And notable here is that the Chunky Boy takes so long to cure because it is much thicker than most silicone products.
So basically the Chunky Boy breaks every rule for silicone injection manufacturing. So it's way too thick, it's way too big, it takes a cure time that's crazy. And so to give you an idea of like how much bigger mine is, there's a metric called the churn rate, which is basically just how long does it take to cure that you can open up the machine and get a new one in. Typical churn rate is around like 30 seconds. The Chunky Boy's churn rate is 3.5 minutes. I mean, we've had my mold back for like 6 months, and it's taken 6 months for the engineers at my manufacturer to be able to like fine tune the machines enough to get a consistent product. It looks like this would be the easiest thing in the world to engineer. Like no. I've been like sweet talking my manufacturers because I'm like, please don't hate me. I know it's so difficult, but please don't hate me. I got deep into the process with a different manufacturer at the start, and they were like, we can't make this for you. So I got really lucky with finding my current manufacturer, and they're fantastic. It's women owned right here in upstate New York by me. Small business, everything's made here in the US. And it's great. They're so sweet and take good care of me. And, you know, I love that I was able to keep manufacturing local.
Beth said that they just started taking pre-orders and that all of the products should be shipped by the end of this month.
Pre-orders should start shipping this week, early next week at the latest. And all pre-orders, I've made this commitment and I'm 99.9% sure we're going to actually be able to follow through on it. Everything will be shipped by the end of this month.
So if you are waiting on a manufactured Chunky Boy pre-order, check your mailbox, I guess. It should be here. Let me know if you've received it. If you ordered one, leave a comment and let me know if you have received it yet or if you're still waiting on it. As they plan for the future, Beth says that they are hoping to get to a point where they can just have Chunky Boys stocked on the website and they don't have to do drops anymore. And that she can move forward with the business despite negative reviews in the past.
We're going to have, hopefully, like just consistent stock on the website. Like it won't be, you know, drops or pre-orders. We're just going to have Chunky Boys available, which is kind of the dream. And I'm so excited that we're finally in the place where, you know, customers have demanded we be for the last 2 years. Like we're finally at a place where like I feel like I've solved the customer complaints. So I'm just really excited for this next chapter.
All right, here are my final thoughts. Beth is clearly very passionate about what she does. She came up with this idea that had so much demand that she just couldn't keep up with it. She got in way over her head in a lot of ways and didn't seem to have the business knowledge to keep everything afloat. The parts of the business that seemed to go the most smoothly were where she outsourced labor to people who were experts in that field. Like when she was applying for a patent, she hired a patent attorney to file the patent for her, and now she has a patent for this design. But the parts of the business that struggled were where she tried to do everything herself, like opening a yarn store in a market that she didn't have any sort of understanding or context of, or trying to work with silicone to create this product that was extremely difficult to make. If I'm gonna put my hindsight goggles on really quick, I'm gonna say that there are a lot of places in this timeline where she should have taken a step back to ensure the highest quality product possible over short-term profits, recognition, or notoriety. She mentioned in our conversation that when things first took off, she took about 6 months off from offering the product to perfect the formula. When the 2.0 version dropped, it seemed like it could have benefited a lot from a similar process of taking the time to really make sure that the product was not only functional, but also intact and looked good. While the cosmetic blemishes might not actually hinder the physical experience of the user, marketing and selling products are rarely just about the functionality of a thing. They're also about how something looks and feels to use. There's a reason why a lot of products are pretty and not just functional. Our brains respond to how things look and feel as well as how they actually work. Personally, I think the move to manufacturing is going to be really big for the brand, and I genuinely wish them the best going forward, but I do think she's on thin ice, and this first drop of manufactured Chunky Boys will really make or break her reputation going forward. Have you used a Chunky Boy before? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you have problems? Did it have chunks missing? Are you gonna try them now that they're in manufacturing? Let me know in the comments. I'm very interested to hear what you all think. And a quick little announcement to end the video. I have just put together a form if you want to submit any video ideas. This way everything's a little bit more streamlined, and I don't have to just like accept emails from people because that's gotten really hard to keep track of. So if you want to submit a video idea, fill out this form. Thank you to Mika of saltandstoneknits for helping me put this together. And thank you to anybody who sent me in an email. Even if I didn't include something from your email, it really helped me get an idea of the scope of all of this and just like more context about this. So huge thank you. I really appreciate that. If you want to be in the know about what videos I'm working on, make sure to follow me on Instagram. If you want to support me financially, you can subscribe to my Patreon. I have a monthly exclusive Patreon podcast over on there. And this is my last video in this apartment before I move, which is so sad. I love this place. I'm gonna film a little apartment tour of this room. So if you've ever wanted to know what it looks like sort of behind the scenes, then go subscribe to my other channel, Made in the Moment, to see that video and watch other sorts of craft related videos. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to drink some water, stay hydrated, be nice, go outside, take a little breath, enjoy the weather if it's nice where you are, like the video, subscribe to the video, comment on the video, and that's all for now. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.
I like the new top. Put this in the end credits. It was just my birthday and I'm filming this on my birthday and I'm making a tutorial for this top if you like it. Ooh. You don't have to put that in, but you do have to put this in. Put some music. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you like this video or like others like this video, you make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, hit that like button, ring that bell, because you will get notified every single time Brother Moment posts a video. And guess what? You're gonna like it. You're gonna like it. If you like this one, you're gonna like it. And if you didn't like this one, well, what the hell? We worked so hard on it. And check out their Patreon too. Check mine out while you're at it as well.